have the floor now.
Thank you, Maya, and hello, everyone. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening to wherever you are joining us here today. I'm very happy to be here with all of you. Now, we live in an unequal world, unfortunately, where the benefits of progress are restricted to a select few and where the majority continue to be bereft of even the basic human rights. And now, with the global population set to cross 8 billion, we risk accentuating this inequity with fast dwindling natural resources that gets exacerbated due to the impacts of climate change and biodiversity loss, war, and strife. And hardly any of the actual inequity gets highlighted in the public domain, given the fact that the media is often manipulated by those in power who present their narrative guised as progress, while the gap between the haves and the have-nots widens further. And now the pandemic has been touted as something of a great equalizer, impacting the richest nations and communities with the same impunity as those in the global south. But here again, we have this terrible imbalance with the pandemic amplifying pre-existing inequalities and disproportionately impacting vulnerable regions and communities. And with calls for building back better echoing in all quarters and multilateralism being widely acknowledged as the new mantra for resilience, we did witness a brief period of cooperation amongst nations and stakeholders. However, this was again submerged as the vaccine rollouts commenced. And while developed nations have vaccine stockpiles amounting to 7 doses per capita of its population, but at the same time, thousands of doses being trashed as they cross the expiry date, entire regions in the global south still remain unvaccinated. And really, the question is, how difficult is it in this day and age of high-tech logistics to adjust supply chains so that excess doses don't go wasted? And even more gross is the splurge by the super rich on space travel, with one billionaire trying to outdo the other. And that's fawned upon by the Western media as millions die of hunger, disease, and deprivation. So it's this injustice, this subversion of equality that we at Green Hope Foundation have been fighting against, not by striking or marching on the streets, but by empowering those who are the farthest first through ground level action, while simultaneously amplifying the voices that have traditionally been ignored at the highest levels of decision making. So Green Hope Foundation is a global social innovation enterprise that I founded when I was 12 years old to ensure that children and young people, but specifically our youngest members of society and our most vulnerable, have a platform of learning and action. We currently work across 25 countries and have impacted over 225,000 people. And by providing a platform of learning in ground level action, we seek to create a just, equitable, and sustainable future for all. And we use education for sustainable development as a transformative tool to engage and educate young people and all sectors of society to create empathetic, responsible global citizens worldwide. Green Hope Foundation has had a long-standing relationship with the United Nations, being accredited to UNEP and the UN Convention to combat desertification and drought. But specifically, we have a very close working relationship, and the SDGs are very, very close to our hearts. Because I personally, when I founded Green Hope Foundation just after Rio Plus 20, I decided that it was really important that we were also involved in all of the decision making that led up to the creation of these 17 goals and 169 targets, which we were. And 6 years ago in 2015, I was the youngest out of the 193 people, each representing a UN member state, witnessing the adoption of the Sustainable Development Goals during the UN General Assembly. And I had said then that the decisions that we make today will impact our future. Now, that is why at Green Hope Foundation, our main goal is to localize the SDGs, bringing together the 5 Ps of sustainable development, prosperity of people and our planet through partnerships, thereby creating peaceful, just, inclusive, and resilient societies. And what we realized is that the work that we started in 2012 was directly linked to these goals. So all we had to do now was connect them. To address Goal 1, Green Hope Foundation works globally to reduce poverty, which is exacerbated in areas, as we know, affected most by climate change, biodiversity loss, and war through our relief campaigns in the world's most marginalized communities. In a bid to tackle global hunger throughout the year, Green Hope team members from different countries contribute to food security practices in climate smart ways. In Bangladesh, for example, we are providing training on sustainable agriculture, along with providing organic seeds to COVID-affected and climate disaster-affected communities to end hunger, and are transforming the women into poultry farming entrepreneurs through livestock distribution, where they use 40% of the produce for their own consumption, directly improving health, and the rest is sold to sustain their livelihoods. And these rural women leaders created through the establishment of a local circular bioeconomy are now sending their children to school instead of being forced to sell their daughters into child marriage, and have transformed into decision makers that was previously unheard of in their society. To promote good health and well-being, Goal 3, Green Hope Foundation members participate in health awareness campaigns, such as those to combat diabetes, breast cancer. And to show our solidarity, we also run for causes such as the Terry Fox Run and the Dubai Marathon. We promote sustainable farming, eating organic produce. And during this pandemic, our Grow Your Own Food campaign, led by our children's board, has gone global, where they're reducing their carbon footprint by cutting down on emissions that come from transportation and agriculture. They're also able to create a mini circular bioeconomy within their homes and enact climate justice. And even better, all of them are making their own compost. So they're able to eat locally grown, seasonal, organic, and healthy food that contributes to climate change mitigation. Our work on Goal 4 is, of course, through education for sustainable development and through our sustainability academies, which are tailor-made workshops and conferences that promote capacity building and teach participants how to localize the SDGs and ensure justice and take actions in their own zones of influence. We've conducted over 500 academies worldwide across our 25 countries. And since most of the children we work with don't have access to formal education or know English, or sometimes even don't know how to read and write, we use creative modes of communication like music, art, dance, drama, sport, eco-fashion, and writing, which really help them to express their ideas in bringing about change. And that also includes the book that I wrote when I was 11, Tree of Hope, that Maya talked about earlier. Sports, I did speak about it, but it's a wonderful way of capacity building, localizing the SDGs. And our Sports for SDGs football and kickball tournament, that actually the first one just finished yesterday. We've had a lot more before the pandemic, but this was our first post-pandemic one. And it engaged the youth of the community in learning about the SDGs, with the teams playing for gender equality, responsible consumption and production, life on land, and peace, justice, and strong institutions. Now, obviously, we are in the midst of a pandemic. So the first thing that we did was take our advocacy online, where we've conducted over 95 high-level webinars in the past year of the lockdown, with some amazing speakers from President Mary Robinson, the former prime ministers of Canada and Greece, the president of the UN General Assembly, to civil society leaders who are creating amazing change on the ground. And we've continued our sustainability academies, engaging with children from India to the Democratic Republic of the Congo, both of which have severely been affected by COVID as well. Now, gender equality is at the core of our work at Green Hope Foundation. focusing on empowering women and girls, especially in marginalized societies, as they're the ones most often left behind and live in areas affected most by climate change-induced disasters, from floods, storms, typhoons, which only exacerbate the inequalities they face because of their gender. So we work on clean water and sanitation, skills building through education, sustainable finance, sustainable fishing, and conduct workshops on how they can protect themselves and their children from sexual assault. During the pandemic, we initiated a web series, Women Impacting the World, where each episode interviewed an iconic global leader about her journey, her challenges, and how she overcame them in order to inspire young girls. At all of our Green Hope Foundation's workshops and advocacy events, we urge youth to conserve water, especially potable fresh water, and develop clean toilet habits, mainly in rural areas. At our workshops for rural youth in Kenya, we distributed biodegradable water containers for storing water so that the children, especially the girls, did not have to miss school to bring water for their families, sometimes trekking half a day to get it. During the pandemic in LDCs, Green Hope Foundation has been tirelessly working to distribute sanitation kits. And most importantly, during this pandemic, we have installed deep bore tube wells in villages in Bangladesh. Prior to this installation, the children and the elderly used to die from mysterious diseases caused by drinking contaminated water. But through the installation of these deep bore tube wells, we've been able to provide them with clean, arsenic-free water. We have built toilets to ensure the proper hygiene and sanitation of the people in the village, especially the women and girls who previously faced the risk of snake bites and trafficking when they went to relieve themselves in the fields at night. And these toilets also contribute to the creation of safe spaces for them. And most recently, we built toilets in another village as well, next to the school in their rural community, to ensure that the children, and especially the girls, have a safe and healthy environment at their school. We've also installed rainwater harvesting systems in villages affected a lot by heavy monsoons, using the excess water that comes from the continuous rainfall. Now, I was really glad to hear that you at MUN Impact are focusing on SDG 7 this month, because that is something that a lot of our work focuses on as well. So Green Hope Foundation has been promoting the adoption of clean energy, as well as energy conservation, for instance, through our active participation in Earth Hour campaign since 2013. And to provide clean and affordable energy for all, we've distributed solar lamps to thousands across Nepal, Kenya, and the Run of Kutch, which are the salt pans of India. Our project Powering Education in rural Liberia installed a solar panel grid, installing solar panels in homes, schools, and the community center, as well as solar streetlights in the town that was so far without electricity. And it's a climate smart way for ensuring that electricity reaches the town, because we're using the clean and renewable energy in the form of solar energy. This provides girls safe spaces where they can actually go to school in the evenings, where we are training them on computer literacy and empowering them to become economically independent, and thus breaking them away from the vicious cycle of abuse, drugs, and crime. And their upliftment is lifting their entire town out of poverty. And similarly, we've installed solar streetlights in the villages of Bangladesh as well, for safety of women and girls, as well as solar panels in the homes and schools, so that we can power education through clean energy. We have most recently installed our mobile libraries, which are solar powered and a wonderful way of bringing the education to the children and youth of the villages who had missed out on going to school for a year and a half since the pandemic started. Most of the girls in these villages had also been forced to drop out of school permanently, so we decided to bring the library to them and even have reading corners where our members help the children out with their reading and writing. As I also mentioned, these are solar powered, so we are able to help people in planet in both ways. So this is in Bangladesh, and this is our mobile library in Western India. We have also distributed solar cookers to women in Western India, a lot of these women are daily wage earners and have to leave really early in the morning and come back at around 4 p.m., which means that their children often go hungry. But with these solar cookers, they're able to leave the food in there and allow it to cook. And by the time they come back, the children have been able to eat. And the solar cookers also ensure that they don't use or inhale the poisonous fumes from the cook stoves that they previously used to use. Our work on Goal 8, decent work and economic growth, is through the creation of local circular bioeconomies, working with coastal communities to propagate concepts of sustainable fishing to ensure that marine systems continue to be bountiful while providing decent work opportunities for communities that depend on them. And most recently, through our programs on skills-based education, we have distributed sewing machines to women in rural communities and started our first sewing school. So this is our way of ensuring that women are able to become economically self-reliant and are able to contribute to the creation of a gender-smart circular economy. Our work on Goal 9 is a lot through our work on private sectors and industries. Now, the private sector and companies, they receive a lot of criticism, and rightly so, about their role in unsustainable practices. And this is exactly why they cannot be left out of the climate and sustainability dialogue, because only through their engagement will we truly be able to move towards sustainability and equity. So we engage hotels and on sustainable tourism, educating their employees on recycling, waste management, using locally sourced ethical fair trade products, as well as the construction industry, conducting workshops for their engineers and architects on how they can make their buildings more sustainable. To bridge the digital divide, just a few days ago, we've now provided routers to several rural communities to help the children connect to online classes and continue their education. Our work on Goal 10 is to bridge the opportunity gap by reducing inequalities through the empowerment of marginalized sections of civil society that have most been impacted by environmental and social inequities all across the world. So we've engaged Rohingya refugee children in Kutupalong, the world's largest refugee camp, children in the Syrian refugee camps, homes for children of prisoners in Nepal and Kenya, homes for HIV positive children in Nepal, orphanages, children on the streets, in line with the SDG's mandate of leaving no one behind and ensuring a life of dignity for all. And Green Hope Foundation also conducts workshops at retirement homes for intergenerational solidarity so as to truly leave no one behind. Now, we complement our conferences and workshops with ground level work because grassroots actions are absolutely crucial for global impact. We've conducted over 538 cleanups of beaches, parks, canals, ravines. We've recycled over 250,000 kilos of waste, and our members have gone door to door to promote awareness about waste segregation to improve community awareness in order to reduce urban waste generation and enhance recycling and upcycling habits. Our work on Goal 13, climate action, we believe that tree planting is the simplest yet most effective way to mitigate climate change. So we've planted more than 300,000 trees across the world. For our advocacy on Goal 14, Green Hope has been working on the conservation of the endangered sea turtle and river turtle, all of whom are affected severely by both sudden warming and cooling climates, and spreading awareness about its habitat protection so that the turtles can nest safely. For Goal 15, life on land, we work on mangrove conservation, which is one of our key areas of action. And these fragile ecosystems are reeling under the impacts of urbanization with plastic pollution, as well as suffering from climate change. So our members kayak into these mangroves, collecting tons of plastic trash and aid in its regeneration by planting these saplings. And since mangroves are the best natural barrier against climate change-induced sea storms and typhoons and form some of the largest carbon sinks in the world, we have planted over 6,000 mangroves all across the world, from Suriname to Kiribati to the Sundarbans to Bali to the UAE. Green Hope Foundation also works on peace and disarmament education, Goal 16, so people are aware of how the destruction caused by climate change and biodiversity loss, as well as nuclear weapons, threatens global peace. And once they know about this, they can take action. We do this by getting our voices heard at the highest levels of policymaking, including at the United Nations, and include engaging in the International Day of Peace student dialogues with the UN Secretary General. And we conduct peace education campaigns through song and debate. That's our peace song right there. And through our We Want Bugs, Not Nukes campaign. And we also use music and art to teach children about the importance of peace and nuclear disarmament. Now, we feel that Goal 17 is extremely important because it focuses on global partnerships for development, and we need to all join hands to create a sustainable world. So we engage with all sections of civil society through our partnerships in multiple countries with both government as well as private sector. We have partnered with school boards across the world, including the Toronto District School Board here in my country, Canada, as well as Dubai's Education Board, to provide sustainability education to children and youth. And we are also partnered with Jane Goodall's Roots and Shoots, Wangari Maathai's Green Belt Movement. We have a club at the University of Toronto, and we are partnered with the National Youth Parliament of Suriname. So basically, through all of our actions, our mission is to create a life of dignity for all. And these 17 goals are this framework of action for rebuilding better. And that is why Green Hope Foundation works to localize the SDGs and creating a bottom-up grassroots movement where no one is left behind. And especially now in a world where inequity has its tentacles in all aspects of our lives. And the part of that I find most bewildering is that the subject of equity and the lack of it is not a modern day vexation. It has also troubled philosophers for ages, including Aristotle, who describes equity as either a corrective exception to justice or its culmination. So right now, we need to look at this monstrosity and view it as the Hydra. And just like the Hydra, we need to address the problem right at its roots so that we are truly able to bring about change and, addressing its complexity and its intersectionalities. We need to create this new awakening. And I do believe that our generation has to take the onus and show the way forward. And the route to this goal must be built on the foundations of education. Providing equitable access to education must be the first objective, because at the end of the day, education is the only elixir to this myopia and this subversion of the human psyche that refuses to acknowledge this problem for what it is. Education will lead to that new awareness, one that will remove the archaic mindsets and put due emphasis on the need for equality. And only then will we be outraged when billionaires talk about space tourism at a time when millions are perishing for lack of oxygen. As Benjamin Franklin famously stated, justice will not be served until those who are unaffected are as outraged as those who are. So it is time for us to adopt this culture of empathy, compassion, and kindness so that together we can move towards a sustainable and equitable world for all. Thank you.
Mrs. Basu, we have a few questions for you in the chat. Would you be comfortable with answering them?
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, so we have the question from Tasbin. He's asking, ma'am, my question is, what part of India are they working? What is the main problem they think in Bangladesh related to goals?
So our work in India is actually all across. So we, in India and Bangladesh, we work in the Sundarbans, which is the world's largest mangrove forest. So our work there is focused on mangrove regeneration, as I mentioned. We work in Western India with our work on solar energy and solar lamp distribution, as well as through our mobile libraries. And in Southwestern India, we work on our Grow Your Own Food campaign, and that's where our India chapter head is based. And she has this amazing farm where she grows her own fruit, from papaya to mangoes. It's amazing. And our work in Southern India is on food security and land degradation neutrality. So we work on planting fruit trees and educating children and youth and women about the importance of moving towards sustainable food security practices. So, and in terms of what they think about the work that's done in Bangladesh, some of the problems are similar, some aren't. So it's really about just looking at what are the best practices and scaling them to the ground, which is something that we honestly do in all areas of our work across our 25 countries, really looking at what works best and then scaling it down or up to meet the unique needs and wants of that particular community or region. I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah, thank you. That was so awe-inspiring. So I think our next question comes from the Q&A box. And from Tanisha, we have, how does your organization take action globally while residing in one country?
Yeah, thank you for the question. So we don't reside in one country. I am in one country. Our members are all across the world. And the best part of our work at Green Hope Foundation is that we never go to a community and tell them what to do. It is us working with the community, and our chapter heads of each of the communities and the countries are all those who are from those very places and who've experienced the challenges firsthand and want to bring about change in their own zones of influence. So we, as a core group that consists of our 25 chapter heads, we just come together to discuss what the best practices are and what a potential avenue of creating a solution can be. But at the end of the day, our work is all at the grassroots and our members take it forward on the ground. So for example, the examples that I was giving during my presentation of Liberia, for instance, our chapter head is from the very community and he grew up there where they're now installing solar panels and solar streetlights. Our members in Kiribati who work on mangrove restoration that have been cut down by urbanization, they're the ones who are affected most by climate change on a daily basis. So they are the ones who take action there. For me personally, in Canada, although I am the founder president and the chapter head, I guess, of Canada, we take action in our own zones of influence over here through river turtle conservation and organic farming at our Green Hope farm here. So really, we are all on the ground, and it's not just us telling someone to do an action from another country, because we actually fight against that. It is all about the bottom-up movement within those countries. Again, I hope that answers your question.
Thank you, Miss Basu. Sorry for your speech. I found it really interesting and definitely very inspiring how you can bring different people together and to achieve one common goal. Another question we have is also from the Q&A box. From Aman. Do you think equity and equality goes hand in hand?
Yes, I do think equality and equity go hand in hand. I mean, we are all about, equality and ensuring that everyone has equal rights, equal access. But at the same time, equity is just about ensuring that that equality is tailored to the specific needs and wants of the people whose needs we are addressing. So absolutely, they go hand in hand. It's just a different way of showing how exactly we're able to address the needs and wants of those who are the farthest first.
Okay, Mrs. Basu, we have one last question from the chat. The question reads, what could the United Nations do to improve dialogue and action on the SDGs by youth?
I think that, and speaking as someone who has had a very long relationship with the UN, this is 10 years right now for me, I think that the UN can work to ensure that the voices of those who are affected most by the challenges that the SDGs seek to address, they are heard, and that it's not just a tokenistic engagement of young people, but actual meaningful engagement that looks at and helps to address the challenges and problems that young people face on the ground. And at the same time, not just looking at youth as a homogenous entity where all of us face the same challenges, but recognizing that we are different. We are united in our diversity, sure, but we have different challenges, and ergo we need different solutions on the ground. So I think moving away from that tokenization, which I think all institutions have to do, and actually moving towards holistic, meaningful engagement that bridges the gap between the top-down and the bottom-up processes to create a sustainable world. And I think it is definitely possible.